Anita and Mark had been married for 4 years. Their love story had not been a simple one. When they first met, Mark was still struggling to find his footing in life. Anita had stood by him through those uncertain times, encouraging him, believing in him when even he doubted himself. They had faced financial difficulties, rented a single room with barely enough furniture, and shared meals that were sometimes just bread and tea. Yet they laughed through it, dreaming of better days. Eventually, things turned around. Mark secured a good job in a reputable company, and slowly, life became better. They rented a nice apartment, bought furniture piece by piece, and even purchased their first car. Anita felt proud of how far they had come, together. But there was one thing missing: a child. For the first 2 years, they brushed it aside with hope and faith. "God's time is the best," Mark would say, holding Anita's hand whenever the conversation came up. He would smile and assure her, "Don't worry, love. We will have our children." Anita believed him. But as the months turned into years, Mark began to change. It started subtly. Mark became quieter at home, no longer engaging in the long evening conversations they used to enjoy. When Anita asked questions about his day, his answers were brief, sometimes just a nod, sometimes a dismissive, "It was fine." Anita tried to talk to him about their situation, hoping to hear his heart. But each time she raised the subject of their childlessness, Mark's mood shifted. "I don't want to talk about this right now," he would mutter, standing up from the couch to retreat. The more distant Mark became, the more Anita noticed things that troubled her. His phone, once left carelessly on the table, was now always locked with a password. He carried it with him everywhere, even to the bathroom. Calls became frequent and secretive. She would see him step out of the house to take them, his voice hushed, his back turned. Sometimes he returned smiling faintly, and when she asked who had called, his response was always the same: "Just office work." But office work didn't call late. Despite the pain, Anita tried to be the good wife she had always been. She kept the house in order, cooked his favorite meals, prayed fervently for her marriage, and wore a smile even when her heart felt heavy. But the loneliness was overwhelming. In the quiet of the night, when Mark turned his back to her in bed and drifted off to sleep without a word, tears slid down her cheeks. She longed for the days when they laughed together, shared their dreams, and planned for their future children. One evening, she found a receipt in Mark's trouser pocket while doing laundry. It was from a restaurant, an expensive one they had never visited together. The bill was for 2 people. Her hands trembled as she held it. She couldn't bring herself to confront him right away. Instead, she tucked it into her Bible and prayed harder. But deep down, her fears were growing roots. Finally, one night when Mark returned unusually late, Anita gathered her courage. "Mark," she began softly, "I need to ask you something." He sighed, already defensive. "What is it now? Are you seeing someone else?" Her voice cracked as she said it, her hands trembling. Mark froze. Then he let out a short laugh, one that didn't reach his eyes. "Anita, why would you even ask me that? Don't you trust me?" "I try to," she whispered, tears welling. "But you're not the same anymore. You come home late." Anita lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling. She realized she was losing her husband, not to death, not to distance, but to silence and secrets. The man who once vowed to love her no matter what was slipping away, and she didn't know how to hold on anymore. Every prayer felt heavier, every day felt lonelier. And yet, she told herself one thing over and over again: "I will not give up on my marriage." Anita had been feeling weak for days, but she tried to ignore it, hoping it was nothing serious. Her body ached, and some mornings she could barely get out of bed. She told Mark several times that she wasn't feeling well, hoping that for once he would show concern. But he never did. He would simply nod, mumble something like, "Maybe you should rest," and rush out of the house. Each evening, she waited for him to come home early, hoping maybe that day he would bring her medicine or even just sit beside her. But Mark was always gone. Sometimes, he didn't even bother to call. Anita felt invisible. She began to wonder if her presence even mattered anymore. When the sickness grew worse, she decided to go to the hospital alone. She could no longer bear the constant weakness and nausea. Sitting in the waiting area, her mind wandered. She remembered how Mark used to hold her hand during their early years of marriage, whenever she was ill, making her laugh, even when she could barely talk. Now, even when she told him she was sick, it was like speaking to a wall. After a few hours, the doctor returned with her test results. "Congratulations, Mrs. Mark," he said with a warm smile. "You're pregnant." For a moment, Anita was speechless. Her eyes filled with tears, tears of joy, relief, and hope all at once. She placed her hand on her belly in disbelief. After years of waiting, praying, and crying, she was finally carrying life inside her. Maybe this was what they needed to become close again. Maybe this would heal the distance between them. She could already picture Mark's reaction. He would be so happy. She imagined him lifting her in joy, kissing her forehead, promising to do better. She couldn't wait to tell him. That evening, when Mark finally came home, Anita's heart raced. "Mark," she said softly, "I have something to tell you." He looked at her briefly. "Can it wait? I'm tired." "No, please." "It's important." She walked closer, holding his hand. "Mark, I went to the hospital today. I'm pregnant." He stared at her for a moment, expression unreadable. Then, to her surprise, he smiled faintly. "Really?" "Yes," she said, smiling through tears. "We're going to have a baby." He hugged her loosely, muttering, "That's good news." But Anita noticed his eyes, cold and distracted. The joy she hoped for wasn't there. It felt more like he was pretending to be happy. Days turned into weeks, and nothing changed. Mark's neglect continued, if not worse than before. He was still gone most nights, still glued to his phone, and when Anita tried to talk about the baby, he would nod without listening. The pregnancy was hard on her. She felt constantly weak and nauseated. There were nights she vomited until dawn, clutching her stomach in pain, wishing her husband was there to hold her. But he never was. She went to every hospital appointment alone, carrying her handbag and water bottle with trembling hands. The nurses would look at her with sympathy when they saw her arrive by herself each time. They often asked, "Where's your husband today?" And she would smile weakly and say, "He's busy." But inside, her heart was breaking. Months passed like that, loneliness, pain, and silence. One morning, she woke up feeling extremely weak and dizzy. Her head was spinning, and she could hardly stand. Her next prenatal appointment was that day, so she begged Mark, "Please, can you take me to the hospital today?" "I'm not feeling well at all." He didn't even look up from his phone. "I can't today, Anita. I have an important meeting at work." "Mark, please," she said again, tears in her eyes. "I really don't feel well." "I'm scared, Anita," he snapped. "I said I can't." "Don't start your drama now." Her heart sank. "Drama?" she whispered. "I'm just asking for your help." But he had already grabbed his keys and walked out. Left alone, Anita gathered her strength, slowly dressed up, and took a taxi to the hospital. After her appointment, she felt too weak to return home alone. She called Mark again, her voice trembling. "Mark, please, can you come and pick me up from the hospital?" "I'm really not feeling well." "I told you I'm busy," he replied sharply. "I have a lot of work. Take a taxi home." She felt tears burn her eyes. "Okay," she whispered, and ended the call. She waited a few minutes to gather strength before getting into another taxi. The car rolled slowly through the busy streets, her mind lost in thought. Then suddenly, through the window, she saw something that made her heart stop. There, just a few meters away, was Mark, her husband, sitting in his car with another woman. They were laughing, talking closely, smiling in a way Anita hadn't seen him smile in years. Her heart pounded. She told the driver quickly, "Please, stop the car." The taxi stopped. Anita could barely breathe. She watched as Mark and the woman stepped out of the car and entered a restaurant. No, maybe I didn't see well, she whispered to herself. But she knew she had. Her hands were shaking as she paid the driver and walked toward the restaurant. When she entered, her heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. There he was, her husband, sitting across from the woman, holding her hand and laughing softly. It was so intimate, so familiar. It was everything she had been missing. Mark looked up and froze. His face turned pale. "Anita?" he said, his voice trembling slightly. She walked closer, her voice shaking. "What are you doing here?" he stammered. I have an important meeting." She looked at the woman beside him, then back at him. "An important meeting?" she repeated bitterly. "This is what you call a meeting?" "Mark, I was calling you. I told you I wasn't feeling well. I begged you to come to the hospital. And here you are, laughing with another woman." The woman shifted uncomfortably, avoiding Anita's gaze. Mark's expression hardened. "Anita, stop embarrassing yourself. You shouldn't be here." "Embarrassing myself?" she repeated, her voice rising. "Mark, I'm your wife. I'm carrying your child. And you're sitting here pretending to be busy while I'm struggling alone?" "Anita, please," he muttered, glancing around as people began to look at them. "Go home. We'll talk later." She blinked in disbelief. "Go home? You're not coming with me?" "No," he said coldly. "I'll come later. Just go home." She stood frozen, staring at him as he turned back to the woman and sat down again. Anita's knees almost gave way. She turned around slowly, her eyes clouded with tears, and walked out of the restaurant. Her chest felt tight, her breath shallow. When she got back into the taxi, she couldn't hold it anymore. She cried until her body ached. That night, Mark didn't come home. Anita sat on the edge of the bed, clutching her belly, whispering to her unborn child, "I'm so sorry, my baby. I'm so sorry." Tears soaked her pillow as she wept until morning. She felt her entire world crumble before her eyes. The love she once knew was gone, and she was left alone, pregnant, heartbroken, and unloved. From that day on, everything became painfully clear to Anita. Mark was having an affair, and he was not even trying to hide it anymore. The late nights continued. The secretive calls became more open, and sometimes he even came home smelling of another woman's perfume. When Anita tried to confront him, he would either laugh coldly or storm out of the house, leaving her talking to herself. The man she had loved and cared for was gone, replaced by a stranger who seemed to despise her presence. Yet Anita endured it all with quiet strength. She focused on her pregnancy, reminding herself that she was carrying a life inside her, a child who deserved love, even if she was not receiving any. The days were long, lonely, and filled with pain, but Anita faced them with courage. She went to her appointments alone, shopped for baby clothes by herself, and prepared her hospital bag without any help. Her body was heavy, her legs swollen, but her spirit refused to break. She kept telling herself, "I'll be fine. My baby will be fine." Then came the night her contractions began. It was late, and she was at home when a sharp pain gripped her abdomen. It felt different, deep, strong, and coming in waves. She cried out softly, holding her stomach. She knew this wasn't just ordinary pain. Something was happening. She called Mark, who was in the living room, scrolling through his phone. "Mark," she said breathlessly, "I think something is wrong. I'm in pain. I think it's time. I think I'm in labor." He didn't even look up. "You're probably just overreacting again, Anita. You need to rest. You've been too dramatic lately." "Mark, please," she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. "It hurts so much. I'm telling you, something is happening. I think the baby is coming." He finally looked at her, annoyed. "Anita, I told you, I have plans tonight. I can't cancel them because of your usual drama. Take painkillers and rest. If you're still feeling bad tomorrow, I'll take you to the hospital." She stared at him in disbelief. "You're leaving me like this?" "Mark, please." But he had already stood up, grabbed his car keys, and said coldly, "You'll be fine. Just lie down." Then he walked out the door, leaving her crying in pain. The contractions grew stronger. Anita clutched the edge of the bed, screaming softly, tears mixing with sweat on her face. She realized she couldn't wait any longer. Trembling, she reached for her phone and called her neighbor, a kind woman named Mama Grace. "Mama Grace, please!" Anita gasped between sobs. "I think I'm in labor. Mark is not around. Please help me." Within minutes, Mama Grace was at her door. When she saw Anita's condition, she didn't waste time. She called a taxi, helped her into it, and they rushed to the hospital. The labor was long, painful, and exhausting. Anita screamed until her voice was hoarse. Hours turned into what felt like an eternity. The nurses tried to comfort her, but the pain was overwhelming. She was completely alone. No husband's hand to hold, no comforting words to calm her. Only Mama Grace sat quietly outside the room, praying. After many agonizing hours, Anita finally heard the most beautiful sound in the world. A baby's cry. A flood of tears streamed down her face as the nurse handed her a small, warm bundle. "It's a boy," the nurse said gently, smiling. Anita held her son close, sobbing uncontrollably. My beautiful baby," she whispered. Her heart was overflowing with love and sadness all at once. She had brought life into the world, but the one person she had hoped would share this moment was not there. As she stared at her baby's tiny face, she made a silent promise. "I will protect you, even if I have to do it alone the next day." As she lay in her hospital bed, weak but grateful, a doctor came in to check on her. When she looked up, her eyes widened in surprise. "Joshua," she whispered. The doctor froze, then smiled warmly. "Anita!" They both stared at each other for a moment, memories rushing back. Joshua had been her childhood friend, the boy who used to walk her home from school, who made her laugh when she cried. They had been deeply in love when they were young, but life had separated them. Joshua had gone abroad to study medicine, and over time, they lost contact. "I can't believe this," Joshua said softly, still smiling. "After all these years, it's really you." Anita smiled faintly, tears forming in her eyes. "It's me." He looked down at the baby in her arms. "You have a son?" "Yes," she whispered. "I just had him last night." "That's wonderful. Congratulations," he said warmly. "You deserve all the happiness in the world, Anita." His words pierced her heart, because she knew happiness was the one thing she didn't have. She smiled faintly, trying to hide the pain in her eyes. But Joshua could see it. He saw the sadness behind her smile, the exhaustion in her posture, the loneliness in her voice. Over the next few days, Joshua visited her often. They talked about old times, laughed about their childhood memories, and slowly, Anita began to open up. She told him everything about her marriage, the years of waiting for a child, Mark's coldness, his affair. Joshua listened quietly, his heart breaking with every word. When she finished, she wiped her tears and whispered, "I don't even know if I want to go back home." Joshua reached out, gently taking her hand. "You've been through so much, Anita. You didn't deserve any of it. But listen to me. Life has a way of giving second chances. Maybe this, us meeting again, it's a sign." She looked at him, confused. "A sign?" He nodded. "You know, I never married. I tried to move on, but I never stopped thinking about you. Seeing you again, it feels like life is giving me another chance, to love you, to protect you, to make you smile again." Anita's heart pounded. She didn't know what to say. She looked down at her baby, who was sleeping peacefully in her arms. A tear rolled down her cheek as she whispered, "Joshua, I don't even know where to begin." "Begin with healing," he said softly. Let me help you with that. And for the first time in a very long while, Anita felt something she hadn't felt in years: comfort. Days later, after Anita had been discharged from the hospital, one of their mutual friends, a woman named Ruth, came to visit her. She looked uneasy and guilty, holding a small bouquet of flowers in her hands. "Anita," Ruth said softly, sitting beside her, "I just wanted to see you and your baby. I heard everything that happened, and I've been feeling so guilty. I'm so sorry for what you went through." Anita smiled weakly. "Thank you, Ruth. It's been hard, but I'm managing," Ruth sighed, looking down. "Anita, I don't know if I should tell you this, but I think you deserve to know. The night you were in labor, Mark wasn't at work like he told you." Anita frowned. "What do you mean?" "He was with his girlfriend," Ruth whispered, eyes filling with pity. "He threw her a big birthday party that night. Everyone was there. I didn't go, but I saw all the videos on her page. I couldn't sleep after I heard what you went through that same night." Anita's heart skipped a beat. "Her birthday?" she asked faintly. "Yes," Ruth nodded. "That same night you called him, begging him to take you to the hospital. She even posted pictures of him with her, feeding her cake and dancing together." Ruth showed her the photos on her phone. Anita stared at them, her eyes widening, her breath trembling. There was Mark, smiling, holding the woman's waist, surrounded by people cheering as if everything in his life was perfect. She felt her stomach twist painfully. "That was the night. I was screaming in pain," she whispered, her voice breaking. "He left me suffering alone. To go party?" Ruth nodded silently, tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Anita. I didn't know how to tell you before. I just couldn't keep it to myself anymore." Anita sat there, frozen, the world spinning around her. She couldn't understand how a man could be so heartless, to abandon his wife in labor, the mother of his child, just to celebrate another woman's birthday. Tears streamed down her face. "So that's where he was," she said in disbelief. "That's where he was when I almost died giving birth to our son." Ruth reached for her hand gently. "You didn't deserve that, Anita." "You never did." Anita was sad. What Ruth told her broke her completely, but through it all, Joshua was there. Joshua was her light. He was kind, patient, and caring, everything she had missed for years. Sometimes he would go to her house, check on her and the baby, and sometimes even stay late into the evening, helping her with things Mark never bothered to do. The more time they spent together, the closer they became. Anita found herself laughing again, something she hadn't done in years. Joshua adored her son, often carrying him, talking to him softly, as though the baby could understand every word. At first, Anita felt guilty. She was still technically married to Mark, even if it was only a traditional marriage and not a legal one. But as the days turned into weeks, and Mark still behaved as if she and the baby was invisible, going and coming without checking on them, she realized she owed him nothing anymore. Joshua's love was healing her. His presence was gentle, his eyes full of sincerity. They would sit together, talking about everything and nothing. Anita told him about the years she had endured in silence, and he would listen, sometimes holding her hand and saying softly, "You're safe now. You're not alone anymore." Their relationship blossomed naturally. Joshua adored her baby boy as if he were his own, and the bond between the three of them grew stronger each day. For the first time in a very long while, Anita felt seen, cherished, and loved. Then one afternoon, Joshua came to her looking thoughtful. He sat beside her and held her hands gently. "Anita," he began, "I need to tell you something." She looked up, sensing the seriousness in his tone. "What is it?" "I've been in touch with some hospitals overseas," he said quietly. "They've offered me a position. I'll have to travel in a few weeks." Anita's heart sank. "Travel?" she repeated faintly. "For how long?" "It could be for a while," he said. watching her closely. But I don't want to leave you behind. I want you and the baby to come with me. Tears welled in her eyes. Joshua, I just started to feel happy again. I just started to feel alive. And now you're leaving? He smiled gently, brushing her tears away. Not leaving, Anita. I'm asking you to come with me. We can start a new life together, away from all the pain, away from the past. She hesitated, her heart torn. But deep down, she knew he was right. She was not legally bound to Mark. Their marriage had been traditional, never registered, and he had long stopped treating her like a wife. He never even came to the hospital to declare his own son's birth. Everything she had once called home had become nothing but emptiness. So after many nights of prayer and reflection, she agreed. Together, they made all the arrangements quietly. Joshua handled the travel documents, and Anita finalized her son's paperwork. She told no one, not even Mama Grace. Then, one quiet evening, Anita packed her things. She looked around the small apartment one last time, holding her baby close. "We're leaving this pain behind, my son," she whispered. "We're going to start anew." The next morning, they left. Anita, Joshua, and her baby boy boarded a plane and began their journey to a new country, a new beginning. Meanwhile, Mark returned home late that night to an empty house. At first, he didn't notice anything unusual. But when he called out Anita's name and received no answer, something inside him shifted. He checked the bedroom. The clothes were gone. The baby's crib was gone. Everything that belonged to them was gone. He tried calling her, but her number was unreachable. He tried again and again. Nothing. The next day, he called her family and friends, but no one had seen her or knew where she went. Days passed, then weeks, and still there was no sign of her. Then one evening, as he sat on the couch with his phone in his hand, it rang. It was her. "Anita?" he said quickly, his voice shaky. "Where are you? What's going on?" Her voice was calm but firm. "Mark, I called to tell you that I'm not coming back." He froze. "What do you mean you're not coming back?" "What are you saying?" "I mean exactly that," she said softly. "I've left. You never cared for me, and you never cared for your son. Even when we came home from the hospital, you didn't show any love or concern. You were never there. So I left. Anita, you can't do this," he shouted, panic in his voice. "That's my child. You can't just take him away. You're my wife." She let out a bitter laugh. "Your wife. When was the last time you treated me like one, Mark? When I was pregnant and sick, where were you? When I was in labor, where were you? When I gave birth to your son, where were you? You never once asked how he was doing. You never asked how I was surviving." He tried to speak, but his voice cracked. "Please, Anita, please come back. I promise I'll change. I'll do better. I'll be a good husband and a good father, please." "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "It's too late for that. I've moved on. I just wanted to tell you so you'd stop looking for me." And then she ended the call. Mark sat frozen, staring at the phone. For the first time, the full weight of his actions crushed him. He realized he had lost everything. The woman who once loved him more than life, and the son he never even tried to know. He broke down and wept bitterly. In the days that followed, he tried to fill the emptiness with the only thing he had left, his mistress. But when he began talking about settling down, she laughed in his face. "Settle down?" "Mark, I'm not looking for marriage," she said, smirking. "I'm young. I want to have fun. Besides, you're not the only man I'm seeing." He stared at her, speechless. "What do you mean?" "I mean it's over," she said simply, standing up and grabbing her purse. "You were fun, but now that you want something serious, it's time to end it." And just like that, she walked out of his life. Mark sat alone that night, haunted by memories. Anita's laughter, her gentle voice, the way she used to wait for him at the door. the way she used to pray for him. He realized he had destroyed his own happiness with his neglect, pride, and selfishness. Now, all that remained was regret. He had once had a loyal, loving wife and a beautiful son, but through his own actions, he had lost them both. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like, comment, and share the video. Also, please subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so that you won't miss our next video. Bye!